Oh. Okay, we're back. So I'll kind of cut to the point about what I was saying because I got a lot more to say. And many of you have heard me talk about this before. We don't have to be. We don't have to have these moments where I didn't know what I was doing. I got angry, and in my anger, I did this, or this thought kept coming at me, and it just made me feel this way. Okay, and I by the way, of course, I know what that feels like. Okay, more than a lot of people. So this isn't some out of touch thing. What I'm saying is we can definitely experience freedom from the control of our own thoughts and emotions, and there is more that the Dharma gives us. But right now, I just want to zero in on that because who doesn't want that? I mean, that is truly to experience freedom. If I can live my life and in every moment not have the influence of thoughts that I don't want and emotions that I don't want, making me do things that I don't want to do, that is brilliant. That is amazing. That is beautiful. Who would not want that? And that is what the Dharma gives us. I'm speaking from experience. Scott speaking from experience. And guess what? There are 2,600 years of people who are speaking from experience. This isn't like a new thing. This isn't some weird cult thing that we came up with that we're trying to put on you. Okay, we're not asking for your money or we're not going to have some campsite or something. We're just talking about practices and realizations and truths that have made a difference in us and that have given us this freedom that we're talking about. Now, I'll be the first to say, if I don't practice, because it's a choice, okay, if I don't practice, well, then yes, I go back to square one. And I want to make that very clear. I'm not perfect. I'm not an enlightened master. Okay, if I don't meditate, man, I'm in trouble. I really am. And if it wasn't for meditation, I probably wouldn't be here. I probably would have, taken my own life. And that's a serious thing to say, but it's true. So, but with that being said, when I do practice, and because I practice, I experience freedom from heavy thoughts, heavy emotions, thoughts of, for me specifically, thoughts of loneliness and abandonment and nihilism. All of those things can influence us or not influence us. And the Dharma gives us, look at it, not my favorite example, but look at it like a battle. Your thoughts and your emotions are coming at you and they want to fight you and bring you down and stick your head in the dirt. The Dharma teaches you how to fight back. Not in the way that we think. So, and I'll talk about that in a second, but that's a good basic analogy to kind of get you interested. Like, oh, I want to overcome my thoughts. I want to overcome my emotions. I want to be free at all times to do what I want to do and not do what my thoughts and emotions pressure me to do. And that is available. And this is not some pipe dream. This is not some theory that we're talking about. We're talking from actual experience, and that's why there's power in what we say. And so, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we. I'm going to use this analogy a little bit more, but then I'm going to skip the analogy because it's not the most accurate analogy. But how do we fight back our thoughts and emotions? How do we fight back these things that not only make us unhappy when we're alone, or stressed out when we're alone, or anxious when we're alone? When we're with others, it causes, on both sides of the relationship, it causes strife and conflict and hostility. The only reason why people get in arguments and get in divorces and have family dysfunction is because parties in the relationship, thoughts and emotions cause them to do other things that they didn't want to do. If they could have went back and chosen the right actions, they would do that. Who wouldn't do that? But we get so lost in samsara. We get so lost in this world where thoughts and emotions are in control. And so there's two ways that Buddha and the Buddhist tradition teaches us how to overcome these things. And I really want to talk about the second one, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the first one for those of you who maybe have no idea about any of this stuff or meditation. Okay. So the first technique that Buddha teaches us is to not fight the thoughts, not fight the emotions, but also to not engage with them. So imagine a thought like a really annoying person going around you and shouting in your face. And, that happened to me a few weeks ago, right? There was some random person who wanted to fight me and was in my face and yelling and using mean language, right? That's a good example of thoughts and emotions and how they bombard us. Well, the first technique that Buddhists teach is to rest and to just not even engage in any way with these thoughts or emotions. Because usually what the average person does is when that thought comes as a person and talks to us in this example, we talk back, we pay attention, we go, yeah, you're right, what about this, what about that? We engage and we interact with our inner world. Okay, for the record, there's nothing wrong with thinking, by the way. Use your brain. When you're at school, use your brain. When you want to use your thoughts and use your brain and thoughts, use them. But most of our thinking is unnecessary. It's not needed. And it doesn't do us any good. And so we need to learn how to decipher and how to know which, do I want to be thinking right now? Is this what I want to do? So right now I'm talking about when thoughts are good, but when you don't want to think, when you don't need to think, when you don't need to feel certain things or dwell on certain things, but yet it seems like it can't stop. What do we do then in that battle? What do we do then in that fight? Well, the first answer is, again, is we don't fight, but we also don't engage. We also don't wine and dine our thoughts. We learn to, I don't want to use the word ignore them because that's also an extreme that people go to, okay? What I'm saying is we learn, even though the voice of that thought is still there, we can learn how to not on the inside. You have an inside person that can rest. You have an inside person that can relax. You have an inside person that mentally on the inside, internally, you can sit down. Just like when we meditate, we sit down, right? You can do that on the inside. And that is the first technique that Buddha gives us. And so I'll talk about that shortly for those of you who don't know, but then I want to get into the second technique. And so this first technique, I call it rest meditation. A classic label for this kind of meditation is called calm abiding meditation. Another name is samatha or shamatha meditation. People call it tranquility, people call it peace, people call it whatever. I think a lot of these words kind of get lost. And so I like the word rest because, again, for me, what has helped me is I imagine that inside person just saying, you know what, I'm just going to rest. I'm not going to think. I'm not going to talk to my emotions. I'm not going to let them play in my head. I'm going to do my best to just be and just stop. Thich Nhat Hanh has a beautiful way of explaining actually both techniques in one thing. He says meditation is stopping, calming, and then I forget the other two things that it's about, what we'll talk about later. But stopping and calm. I'm going to stop. I'm going to calm. We can do that. We can do that. And there's two ways to do that. And I'll quickly go over them. Number one is just what's called open shamatha, open rest meditation, where you're not focusing on anything specifically. As much as you can, you just stop and just be. And a lot of us can only do that for a short amount of time, maybe a few seconds, but we can keep repeating that process. In my own life, when I dealt with the worst of my thoughts that drove me to panic attacks and crazy things like that, that's what I would do. Every time a thought would come that I knew, oh, this thought leads to another thought, which leads to another thought. When the first thought comes, I would on the inside, I would just stop. And then, you know what, 20 seconds later, I would do it again. And then 20 seconds later, I would do it again. It sounds tedious. It sounds like work. It's actually not. It's actually the opposite of work. I'm telling you to stop working. I'm telling you to relax. The work is when the thoughts come and control you and do all of these things. That's the work. This is the opposite of the work. This is stop working. That's why Buddha says, he said, my action is non-action. That what we're doing is not doing. So yeah, you still do it because you have to have an intention about it and you still have to pull the trigger. But what we're doing is we're pressing the brake. You got to press, but then it's pressing to stop. That's what we're doing. But because it's hard, even for myself, to do that just forever, there's a second technique in this resting meditation that most people understand as meditation, and that is resting with a focus. That is resting with an object meditation. So before I said open, I really meant to say like objectlessness. There's no object, you're just resting. But sometimes we need an anchor. A dog needs a bone. It needs something to do. Otherwise, it's going to go dig holes and chase squirrels and do all of these things. If you want the dog of your mind to stop and to relax, sometimes you need a bone. You need just, instead of thinking about 50,000 things, think about one thing. Focus on one thing. And that's why, and that can be a religious symbol, like a cross or a lotus flower or a little Buddha statue. I use my guitar, whatever it could be. It could be the noise of cars going by. It could be so many things. But if you want to rest from your anxieties, if you want to rest from the thoughts that you don't want, give yourself something to do. Distract yourself with it's a positive distraction. Distract yourself with one thing and be with that one thing. The most common thing that everyone knows is the breath. Be with the breath. Your breath is just something that's happening. Just pay attention to your breath. So that's what I'm going to say about rest meditation. I actually have videos on it. I'm sure Scott has stuff on it. And obviously, we encourage you to keep dialoguing with us after this event. So there's so much to be said. But that is enough right there for that. And some of you, that's what you need to do for the next 6 months or 2 years or whatever it is for you. Okay. But, a lot of people know about that, and it's mindfulness, the mindfulness movement, mindfulness is popular. We kind of wanted to get into deeper things with this event. And so I wanted to talk about the second technique. And really, Buddhism comes down to these two things: master this one thing and then master the second thing. And there's more to be said about those two things, but it really is that simple. So the second thing is this: in the same way that we talked about how I'm not going to fight my thoughts and I'm going to rest. Well, the second technique, this is where it sounds a little woo-woo, but it's not, is to see that the person you're fighting with in this analogy is actually not a threat at all. It actually has nothing to say. And so you see it for what it is. And the classic example in Buddhism is if you go outside at nighttime, like right now, we're in the middle of, what is this like? No, it's not like a trailer camp. What is this place?
Yeah, it's a private campground.
Okay, so we're in a private campground. There's a lot more nature than you're going to see in most places. If you were to go outside at nighttime and there was a rope on the floor, if you believe it's a snake, you're going to experience the fear that you would see if there was a dangerous snake. But if the lights come on and you go, oh, it's just a rope, your fear instantly disappears, right? You see it for what it is. And so this is where we get deeper in Buddhism, but I don't want that to distract you or to overly excite you and, oh, we're getting to the deeper things. No, listen, if you're getting too excited about like the deeper things, it really isn't about that. That's going to distract you from listening to this truth, okay? But it is true that what we call thoughts and emotions are not what they seem. They are not what they seem. And let me give you a real life example, personal experience. If I'm not in a good meditation place, if I just have a random thought that says, nobody loves you, nobody likes you, you're worthless, that can turn into something bad for me. Because I believe that, I believe in what this thought is saying, I believe in the truth of this thought, and and then I think more thoughts about it, and I feel more about it, and it's just this downward spiral. It's like the snowball effect, right? But what meditation has taught me is how to, before we were resting from our thoughts, now we're really going to engage with them and look straight at them and see that thought that says you are alone for what it is. And I'm going to talk about a little bit how to do that. But what I want to get to is this: is when you do that, now if that thought were to come, because I've been practicing, I'm in a good place of practice. When that thought comes, I see it, I look at it, I turn the lights on, and that thought that before would torment me, now, honestly, and this is what the tradition teaches, it kind of disappears. It's kind of like I'm trying to think of a good example. Like if it's foggy, and there's a burst of wind, it takes the fog away, or it moves the cloud away, or it makes the cloud dissipate. Buddha figured out how, not in some weird crystals and rocks and woo stuff. No, he just figured out how you can learn how to see for yourself that the things that bother you in your mind really are just, as we say, figments of your imagination. Or a lot of people say these things like, oh, it's all in your mind, but they don't really get it. But sure, that's kind of true what they're saying. It is kind of true, but how do we do that? How do we see for ourselves, oh, you're not what I thought you were. Oh, why was I scared of you? How do we really experience that? Because we can talk about it all day, and that's good. That we need to do that. That's part of the journal. But what I'll say is this: is I've never encountered a lion in the wild. I know theoretically lions are dangerous and scary. That's one way of knowing. But if I were to actually encounter a lion and experience it for myself, it's a whole different thing. And so Buddhism starts out with telling you this is the way things are. And a lot of people are experts on that. They can tell you all the philosophy and all the tenets and all of these things, but have they actually experienced that for themselves? Because when you have a crazy thought or emotion come at you and you put to use what Buddha teaches, and then that thought goes away, or you get it. Oh my, yeah, I was there when the lion attacked me. I was there when oh my God, I get it. That is where the power is at. And that's what I want to help you do, and what Scott wants to help you do. So we're running a little short on time because of the delays, and that's okay. I still have enough time to say what I want to say. That's going to help you. Okay. So here's the thing. I'm like so anti supernatural and weird sometimes because it distracts us. So I want to make sure I want to bring this home for you. Okay. When there are not thoughts in your head, when there's no emotions in your mind, when you're not repeatedly thinking about something you believe in, or an action you're going to do to make yourself feel better, when there's just nothing going on in your head, what's left of your mind? I don't want to talk about theory or just making up stuff. I want you to think about this for yourself. What is here when I'm not thinking? What's the one element of my experience of life, of my consciousness, that is present? It's awareness. It's awareness. And in my experience, Tibetan Buddhism uses that word and uses that part of your mind the most in the best way. And they help you understand that if you can tune with the barest part of your mind, and again, think about it for yourself. What is, if my mind is naked of thoughts and emotions and beliefs, what's left? You're just experiencing. You're just here experiencing through your eyes, you're experiencing sights, through your ears, you're experiencing sounds, through your body, you're experiencing your physical body sensations, through your mind, you're experiencing thoughts and emotions. You're just an experiencer. You're just, experience is just happening. That is what's left when you take off all the other stuff. When a baby's first born and we teach it all of these things, what is it? It's just aware of everything going on. That's why one of the images that the Tibetan masters give us about this second technique that I'm talking about, which, the way we're going to call it, what are we going to call it? We'll call it the classical term insight. You're in the right sight. You see things the right way. One of the great images they give us is when you're in insight or insight meditation. It's like you're a child in like at Disneyland or like in some beautiful temple. You know about nothing. You don't know what any of this stuff means, but you see sights and sounds and colors, and it's all so wonderful. It's kind of like that. It's not perfectly like that, but it's kind of like that. It's similar to that. How do we just experience things from that place of naked awareness, of our mind stripped of all of the things that we put on top of it? Because if we can do that, when thoughts do come, we can learn how to see from that place. Because usually what we do is we see our thoughts from our own conditioning in life. So for example, two people who have different experiences of life can have the same thought. One's going to love the thought, one's going to hate it. What are they doing? They're bringing their experience of life to that thought. And so it's become something good or bad. It's become too much. But if we can, that's why in Zen we say, who were you before your parents were born? What was your face before your parents were born? If we can go back to that place of just being you in your most barest nakedness, simplicity, what is that thought if it's not coming from your conditioning? It's just a thought. That's it. And you understand it, and and you can talk about it. See, now today I can tell you, yeah, there was 5 moments in my day where thoughts of loneliness came. I can tell you that it happened, but I can also tell you that it didn't bother me at all, because I'm seeing those thoughts the right way. So I want to do my best to give you at least one practice so that you can try and figure this out for yourself. And again, I highly encourage you to dialogue with my page and Scott's page, and you're more than welcome to DM us. I know he feels that way. So, but. Let me see which bullet point I want to give you before we go on our break. Okay, I'm going to give you a general lesson, something that you will learn, that I want you to look for as you meditate, as you practice just being aware and being present. One of the things that we're doing when we're meditating, honestly, is we're just bonding with our own awareness. We're having bonding time with our own self. And when you spend time with somebody, you just intuitively and subconsciously and automatically pick up things about that person, and you just know things. They're a good person, they're a bad person. I know what they're like. No, they wouldn't do that. You just need time to get to know someone or something. And so when you practice not thinking, not worrying, just resting, and just being here and just being aware. Scott and I meditated today. There were sounds. I was aware of the sounds. I wasn't adding my own commentary on those sounds, but they were happening, and I heard them happening. I saw the trees. I saw the pine needles fall from the tree, right? I'm just aware of things. What am I doing? I'm spending time with my own basic self, my naked self, my naked mind. I'm just spending time with myself. I'm spending time with my own awareness. And as you do that, you learn the difference of what it feels like when you're just in awareness and when you're thinking and worrying and doing all of these things. One practice that helped me realize some of the stuff I'm telling you about was one teacher who's not even a Buddhist, but just some spiritual person who's got some good stuff. He had this practice, and he said, whenever you're feeling something or thinking something, ask yourself, is that me or is that my truest me? Is that my bare awareness self or is that the outer self? Which, by the way, all of it's you, and I love all of you, and you should love all of you, and we accept all of who you are. But we need to understand the difference between the bare me and the outer me. And so that's what I want you to play with on your own. That's what I want you. Meditating is kind of like getting Play-Doh, and you're just kind of just getting used to it, feeling it for yourself. What does it feel like when I hold it, when I squeeze it, the weight of it? Honestly, a lot of meditating, that's just what you're doing, is that you're just kind of like feeling things out for yourself, because you have to learn these things for yourself. Teachers are here to help you go in the right direction and avoid pitfalls, but to a big extent, it's just you getting into the groove, making your groove in the chair, figuring out what's comfortable for you. And so I want you to get comfortable with awareness, but I want you to be asking that question. Is this, and I know there is a Tibetan parallel to that. I forget what it's called, but they ask you that, self-inquiry, like what's the real you? That thought, was that really you? And you really get in there. No, that's not me. Well, who is the real you? And again, this is something that what I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to open the lion cage and get in there with the lion. I can talk to you about the lion all day and tell you facts about the lion and my experiences with the lion. And I can even like roar at you like a lion. But until you get in the cage yourself, none of this will matter. You have to have the experience of the lion yourself. You have to have these experiences yourself. And then you come back and you go, okay, this is what I experienced. Let's talk about that. And we go from there. But the word that I want to leave you with before we go on break is awareness. Think about that for yourself, honestly. And a lot of this stuff too, learning the Dharma, it's not even meditating. It's you sitting by yourself in your room and just kind of thinking about stuff. What does that mean to me? How he's saying like this? Oh, maybe if I think of analogies that work for you. Just think about these things, chew on these things, spend time with these things, and that's where you're going to start to be able to do what we're talking about. So again, lastly, the two things that we can fight thoughts with: one is we can just relax and not even engage with them. We're aware of them, they're happening, but we're just relaxing. And in that place, we learn how to, maybe when you're relaxing and your thoughts trying to fight you, you do come to a place, sometimes spontaneously, where you look at the thought and you go, oh, you're not even what I thought you were. You can't touch me. You can't harm me. You can't beat me up. Like that guy that was threatening to beat me up. What if his arms were paralyzed, but I didn't know that? And he's scaring me. But what if I knew, oh, your arms are paralyzed. You can't do anything to me. Oh, you're just a thought that comes and goes. You're just like a cloud. There's no reality. I see you, but if I were to put my hand through you, there's nothing there. This experience is real, and you should aim for that in a restful, relaxed way. Don't get all crazy on it.